This note-taking video is on the scientific method. The worksheet that you can use for this looks like this. The worksheet goes along with the PowerPoint. I have a copy of the notes here. You can follow that, and as we go through the PowerPoint, you can take the notes. Make sure that you only take the notes after we've taken the slide information. The essential question for this PowerPoint is how we can use the scientific method to solve a problem. Whether you realize it or not, we are constantly using the scientific method to help us understand the world around us and problems that we have. There are 6 basic steps to the scientific method. Before we can talk about any of those, you need to understand what the definition is for the scientific method. That is the logical approach to solving problems. I know it's kind of small, but you can squeeze that definition in right here. The logical approach to solving problems is being able to think through a problem in a specific way so that it can be validated and repeated over and over. The first of the 6 steps is to ask a question, usually because you've observed a problem. The second step is to do your background research. The third step is to construct a hypothesis. A hypothesis is basically an educated guess. We can go ahead and define that now here. A hypothesis is a tentative explanation that can be tested to determine its validity. Like I said, in other words, an educated guess. It's educated because we've done the research. The fourth step is to test that hypothesis. You use this by creating an experiment. After you've carried out your experiment, you would analyze the data and draw a conclusion. If your conclusion backs up your hypothesis, then your experiment is considered valid. If your conclusion did not back up your hypothesis, you should repeat your experiment by going back and figuring out what you did wrong, creating a new hypothesis and a new experiment, and starting over. Let's talk about these steps in a little bit more detail. Again, if you get behind, you can stop the video, back it up, catch up on your notes, watch the PowerPoint again. So for step 1, to ask or observe a problem, ask a question or observe a problem. Let's say that you go out to your car in the morning and it won't start. So what is that question or problem? You say, why won't my car start? Now, the background research, you would probably, the first thing you would do is go ask your parent or Google it. After that, you've done your research so that you can create your hypothesis. A hypothesis should be in an if-then format. If I change the battery, then my car will start. To test your hypothesis, you create an experiment. This is a little bit more detailed than we can get into in this short time we have here. So I do have another video on that coming up next. So to test your hypothesis, you would create an experiment that has a control and a variable. So it has a control and a variable. So how might you test this hypothesis? Let's say you put a new battery in the car and then you try to start it. That could be your experiment. After you do that, you're going to analyze your data. This is where you collect the information gathered from the experiment. And let's say after you change the battery, it still won't start. What does that mean? That means that your hypothesis was wrong and it wasn't the battery. So now what? You have to go back and repeat it. After the first hypothesis was found to be incorrect, you reflect and review, and then you create a new hypothesis. You go back and repeat the experiment. Look for the next video to dive into control and variable and other parts of the experiment in more detail.